Sup, fuckers? West Shrimp Pubble here with two guests, Executioner and a guy named Riley.
Hello.
We're doing episode. Sorry, go
Sup
ahead.
that in a bag of donuts. Said sup in a bag of donuts.
Okay then. Today we're going to get my notes out on certain things we're going to talk about. And I'm going to make myself a sequel to the idea of what must be done. Yeah, I'm going there, folks. Definition of state. Remove that from the list. No, I gotta keep that. I'll do that later.
Since this won't make
Papa
it
for
in
Dummies
anyway,
video
this
script.
reminds me
Ah,
of,
here we go. Here's some other.
time I was on
Okay, I got all my notes together. Go ahead. I'm getting the video game up now.
Reminds me of the time I was on Bogosity when all the silence and stuff like that. It'd be Shane and he'd go, "Okay, cue intro." Then he'd say his piece. Then it was funny as hell. There's a lot of behind the scenes stuff people never really get to see.
Yeah.
There was a host on there for an episode. So we're just going to be talking about like the libertarian ideas and stuff as you play Zelda.
Yep. On the foreground, I'm playing Zelda, and we're gonna do that kind of shit. How, like, we could come up with different ideas of how to spread liberty, how to,
I have an original copy of the first Zelda on NES.
like the activism and stuff. Like, remember we talked on the phone? I tied you on the phone, and I had Techno on the Discord. You know, this is when this idea came up.
Yeah, man, I hear you.
Yeah, that was great.
Guy.
Okay, would you be willing to talk more into the humanitarian vehicles method you mentioned before? Riley here and others agreed that's pretty badass.
Also,
The idea is basically there's a lot of issues and conflicts in Africa going on right now. There's a lot of children getting injured through guerrilla conflict and stuff like that. And there are people on the ground trying to give medical attention to these people, but a huge problem is some of the vehicles they have, the ambulances and stuff, are not armored, so they are very susceptible to small arms. My idea is to take military vehicles, let's say Humvees, BMP-1s, old armored personnel carriers, de-arming them so you're able to export them to these countries and convert them to ambulance equipment and stuff like that for these people, and having some libertarians and stuff like that who have medical experience volunteer their time to go help these people, and that can help advance our cause by getting libertarians out there and actually doing charitable work that actually helps people and promotes voluntarism.
See, I had a nation first version of that approach, but after listening to you, I figured, wait a minute. You want to get rid of the U and the S. You want to spread the idea of saving the A minus the U and the S, but you want to save the A, but you want to worry about the people of the nation first. This is a good way to trump the nation first cult types, and also, hey, some patriots should get on. Genuine patriots should get on board with this, right? And say, hey, this will, you know, We're coming here to do, and you can use this kind of means to transport infrastructure. Gray market transporting, and I'm not gonna say AG, the ag type thing, but I think you threw to know what I'm hinting at. Wink, wink. Let's just give one hint. The Agora of ancient language is a hint at it.
I think liberty is very much a global cause, and to try to limit it to the nation first.
No. Really, I wasn't. I wasn't limiting it to the nation first. It is a global. It is a human cause. It's a humanity cause. I agree. But this is a way to make it palatable. You can have multiple movements. One that worries about this country first, and others that worry about the innocent people over, overseas that are getting fucked by statist cuckery and shit. As well. I'm fully agreeing, but I just noticed that was another implication. It'll be palatable to the right-wing patriot types as well that would be willing to, as long as we can figure a way to do. I know we need to do a rhetoric change a little bit because
it's advertisement.
Yeah, advertisement and using principles and reverse engineering what the Fabians did to get it further going at the local level and policy changes, and using methods of quietly co-funding if need be, if you absolutely had to. Not advocating that, but just saying, because you can make local infrastructure builders and stuff able to work with you more readily than you can state level and Fed level and shit. Like, Fed level's cocked. Let's just be honest.
There are different ways to finance this that can either be in the white market or it could be in the gray market, but the thing to avoid here is dipping into the things that get people in trouble, so to speak.
Yeah. And if you do, be sure you know what you're doing. I don't fund fucking actual criminality. That's the problem with with actual hard agorists. They have, one of the problems they have.
The problem with agorism is that it dips too into territory that is considered immoral through their transactions, because instead of relying on each other, sometimes they rely on nefarious groups as well, and that's just adding to a whole list of struggles. So it's not a good idea to take it pure agorism.
Well, no! You can't anyway. It's just another good way to get yourself in jail or fuck up and fund someone without realizing it. Oh, I'm fucking. They say, oh well, I'm not directly affecting anybody. I didn't have directly fund that, so I have nothing to do with that. Well, technically, you're not helping either. So
funded Noriega or El Chapo or whatever by engaging in hard agorism. You help these cartels and stuff like that. That's the thing we want to avoid.
Yeah, and that's another. And I'm an agoristic Hoppian type myself, really, realistically, yes. But it's at the same time, I don't peddle the lefty bullshit that Konkin did, because that lefty bullshit and his ideology's done probably just as much harm as the fucking LP, I would argue. Yeah, I'm gonna get a lot of fuckers screechy at me. I don't give a shit. Would you be willing to, shed light on your POV on what you've read out of the book you ordered by Konkin?
I read I believe it's the New Libertarian Manifesto, and the thing about it is I got in a chapter into it, about up to chapter 2. And I think that Konkin really makes a lot of mistakes, if you will, with trying to equate government with hierarchy. When there's two types of hierarchy. There's involuntary hierarchy and there's voluntary hierarchy, because People are social animals. We tend to gravitate towards somebody who is strong or confident, and they tend to lead for people. If it's in a voluntarist sense, where you get together, have a community, and you have this one guy kind of try to help and guide everybody, that's voluntary hierarchy. But if you have an involuntary hierarchy where it's, say, a government or stuff like that, that's where it's immoral. But Konkin tries to equate government to all hierarchy.
Yeah, that's the lefty shit of his ideas. That's the lefty nonsense. This is another reason why I'm going to concede to Hoplu when I say coalitionism's a plague. But not only that, I got an archived version of the article down below that also talked about how my left, right union bullshitters and my right bullshitters tended to often be quite fetty, and people that did it were out by the ones that pushed it the most got fucking arrested. Which is why you can't trust those types. Anyone that peddles that shit, you gotta look at them as a fed until proven otherwise, and don't even wait for trying. You have to. That's just the fucking rule of the game. That's just the way it is. You can't trust some bitches. You can't trust that shit. You gotta be kidding me, you know? And I'll have all this other stuff linked in the description below. I'm just gathering good rupees in the game and making sure okay, I need to stock up on potion.
Yeah, I actually have a copy of the book right now, and I'm up to, I think it's page 27, but I ordered this a long time ago. I order a lot of books, and I tend to plan out, like, which book I'm going to read for the month and stuff like that, but got to the first pages of the book. He starts out fine. First sentence. Chapter 1, status, our condition, page 15. We are coerced by our fellow human beings since they have the ability to choose to otherwise. Our condition need not be this. Coercion is immoral, inefficient, and unnecessary for human life and fulfillment. Those who wish to be supine as their neighbors, prey on them, are free so to choose. This manifesto is for those who choose otherwise to fight back. That's a strong way to begin the book, and I really, at first, I was like, maybe people are wrong about this Konkin. Maybe I read that, and I'm like, maybe they're right. Then I got more into it, and I got to chapter 2 on agorism, and I'm like, he lost me. He just totally
He lost me, but I kept on reading in my case. But yes, that was my experience too. He starts out like he's a Rothbardian, and then he just fucks up hard, and then I'm like, I look at...
He's leftist. He has a Rothbardian
starting point, you could say,
for things, but he goes off in such a direction that Rothbard himself would be like, what did you do with my idea? You went in a totally direction that's not unique. It's just a circus. It's grifting.
Oh, but the certain biggest follower of his kills grifters, so to speak.
What specifically does he say that's specifically does he say that's leftist?
Well, he argues he argues in the Libertarian Manifesto. I've read excerpts where he argues that it is totally not immoral to... So, let's say you have a car company, right? And this was in response to Rothbard's letter criticizing his book. Well, Rothbard said that it's very hard to do a agorist system in a car industry because of a lot of factors. Well, Konkin said, well, what about skimming off the top of production with or without the owners of the company knowing, and reintroducing that into a black market of sorts where they make the cars underground? Well, the problem and contention I have with the with or without knowing is that's very leftist in nature because it doesn't take into consideration property rights. If you're willing to steal from a private company without anybody knowing and doing it and selling it yourself, that's theft. That's very much a leftist idea. It's more about it's not respecting the private property of others. It's taking it and trying to use that as a means.
So I'm not a believer in this guy, but I'm gonna try and steel man his position, I guess, for a second. If one would argue that like the state and state actors and corporations that are funded and supported by the state are invalid entities, they did not acquire their property through legitimate means, it's ill-gotten booty. Could you not justify then taking their property then?
See, that's one of my issues with the corporation narrative too, because I've read a bunch of corporation law books. I'll have to link the main one. It goes into the bulk of corporate law. I'll link a historical analysis of corporation structures, from going all the way back to ancient India and Greece, and then I'll send a couple articles that tie into this as well. In a book called The Managerial Revolution by James Burnham, the last Burkean conservative, libertarian, conservative liberal type that the neocons parodied, were founded being parodies of, if you will, saying, "Oh, we're conservatard too," when they were really Trotskyist Zionist types that abandoned Trotsky. Not really, but yeah.
Well, to respond to Riley's point, I would say that corporation as a label, there are many different types of corporations legally, but the majority of corporations out there are limited liability companies, and it depends on the company you're talking about. If they are heavily influenced by the state, I could see that argument, but there are a lot of corporations out there just registered by normal people like you and me, and to apply that to another example is, okay, if you work at a data center and it's a small corporation, let's say, it's just there for legal purposes, and you decide, okay, I'm going to take all this data and I'm going to use it to further my own means in the agora, I would say that's heavily immoral, because you've just not only stolen information, you've stolen a lot of things that could cause privacy concerns, and you've stolen not only that, but property at the end of the day. And it's very much, how can you say that? It's kind of arguing two wrongs make a right in this situation. And it's,
Sure.
do libertarians want to stoop to the level where they want to use mental gymnastics to justify taking things? Is what my point would be.
Sure. I just, like I said, I'm not really defending this guy. I'm just trying to steel man him a little bit. Because like I do think that I do think somebody might argue that these entities, like, yes, there are some entities that are legitimate, but if they're illegitimate entities, is it really wrong to steal from them? In the same way, for example, that, like, is it really wrong to steal from somebody who, say, violates the NAP, for example? If an entity violates the NAP, is it wrong to steal from them or take something of theirs?
I would say that I look at it from more of a pragmatic point of view, is that if we are willing to resort to those tactics, I think that people should not be surprised when the state starts to clamp down on such a thing. There was a video by a fella named Jim Jesus, and it's on BitChute, and it goes, "Why I Opposed the Collapse." Great video. And he was arguing about a lot of the points of agorism or accelerationism, where people want to accelerate the collapse of the state and all that stuff. People tend to think that okay, this is the end we want, so here's the means to accomplish it, but they never think, oh, what could come afterwards. So it's what could happen in the process of trying to achieve that. What my point is being smart. If people, I mean, are going to do this agorism thing, they need to be smart and realize that when you have a black market, you are going to have people starting to clamp down, and that can cause a whole sort of problems, not only for the entrepreneur, but for the people as well, by the state clamping down on regular supply as well as black market supply. So my point mostly against Konkin is when you do this sort of coercive things, then we shouldn't act surprised when the state clamps down on this sort of thing.
True.
Where Konkin seems to ignore that and thinks, okay, we have this class struggle, so to speak, so we need to do this agorism thing, but we shouldn't worry about the consequences.
Well, I don't like the class struggle thing, so I'm not really gonna say anything on that one. But I will talk about the clamping down thing. Could a person not argue, for example, though, that like various like nations and stuff throughout history have attempted to clamp down on black markets, and the result has actually just been the black markets have gotten larger. So, for example, with the Soviet Union attempted to clamp down on their black market, starting like the 1960s and 70s, and the result was that the black market just got larger and larger and larger. That as the government clamps down on these industries and whatnot, they actually end up they hurt the economy to such an extent that the demand for a black market gets larger and larger. Therefore, like what you're saying, therefore would be true, but wouldn't that be accomplishing the goal? Like, wouldn't that be the intention?
Yes, but what I'm saying mostly is that if we go about it where we just have the agorism, where we just do it plain out, it's just, to me, it's just, there is a smart way of doing it where there's a smart way of doing things where it's underground, and there's a dumb way of doing things where it's so blatant out in the open that it just defeats itself as a concept. There's this one example where some individuals within libertarianism have been bragging about working under the table and engaging in the agora, etc., where that just puts a huge target on not only their backs, but everybody they associate with. So it's, to me, I think people should just keep their transactions in the gray market and black market and stuff like that, just keep it to themselves, because if they just go out and start blabbing about what they just did and stuff like that, that's just not going to help. It's like snitching in a way.
Oh, okay. So your real criticism then, like at that point, your real criticism then is like, you can do some of these actions, just don't brag about it, don't talk about it, like keep it quiet, and hush hush mum's the word kind of thing. The idea then is that, like, you know, what happens in the shadows should stay in the shadows for the situation.
Yes, that's one criticism I have.
Yes.
That's one of the two core criticisms I have as well. I agree with this sentiment.
There are certain individuals, I will not say by name, but they brag about 3D printing machine gun components and going to gun buybacks and selling them to the state. And the main problem with that is, after a while, they're going to think, this person seems to have a lot of bump stocks. How could they have acquired that many bump stocks? And they obviously know your face. So that creates a lot more problems. So it's the blatant, it's kind of like the meme. There's a meme of selling these things back to the state. that's great as a meme, but trying to do that is just
It's
almost a suicide attempt.
it's suicide. It's retarded. It's way too easy to catch yourself. So it's a good way to co-fund like countercultural, political, like localistic movements. Essentially, that's what it'd be more intelligible to do. So yeah, stick to the shadows. Use it to co-fund political local movements, and then just get rid of the leftist bullshit that's throughout the ideology. Just get rid of all that. Get rid of all that leftism, autist baggage. Okay, like seriously, it's stupid.
So okay, so I guess where we're at then, at least my understanding of this conversation then is the morality of what he's saying is questionable, but not definitive one way or the other. It's kind of up in the air. But if you're gonna do it, then just don't talk about it. The kind of the first rule of Fight Club kind of situation. I think I can agree with that. Like that makes sense to me.
And that's both of us reading, and then Executioner reading up to chapter 2 and saying, "Oh, you lost me." That's when I said, "You lost me too," but I keep reading just because I want to see what the fuck you had in your head. You were projecting on it. Because look, say what you want, but when you look into it like a writing material, like authored. When you look at someone writing something, you're also looking at what the fucker's thinking when they put it into the page, right? When you look at an author that writes extremely detailed and everything, you're also looking into what the fuck's going on in their head as they wrote this thing. As they wrote this piece of literature. So you have to look at it from that perspective as well. Whew, shit. And I could not help but think, what the fuck was he? What the fuck was he fucking thinking? In certain areas.
So it's a little bit of an inference because we can't really know what Konkin really thought because he's 6 feet under the ground.
Yeah, we can't know what he's. Well, I could say we can't know what he's thinking now, but the way he responded,
I would say.
The way he responded to like Rothbard and when Rothbard criticized him and shit and so on and so forth, I can absolutely say that was valid on Rothbard's part. But I think he was willing to. I think he was willing to defend everything he did through and through. Realistically, excuse me. I do think he was willing to defend that shit through and through. In all honesty. And I do think he had some leftist mindset based on what he authored, and the moment I see SJW rhetoric being said by one of his closest colleagues, who is an agorist, hard left, lib left, as he called himself, I'm like, yeah, I would not be surprised if Konkin thought this way too, or along these lines. Not entirely, but I wouldn't be surprised because. I read, when you read the work and you look at all the stuff and you look at how he defended himself against criticism and shit, rather arrogantly and kind of had a commie light hue to it, you could say. You think, wow, this is kind of fucked. You got to, you think about that.
I don't remember the book, but Noam Chomsky, and I'm not defending Noam Chomsky here. Noam Chomsky is Noam Chomsky, but to be fair, Noam Chomsky wrote the foreword for a book that was a Holocaust denialist book. Chomsky's not a Holocaust denialist. The guy happened to be a friend of his. Chomsky happens to be friends with a guy who's a Holocaust denialist.
Sure.
And yeah, but like the thing here is that yes, Chomsky wrote the foreword, but Chomsky's not a denialist. Your company, the company you keep, doesn't necessarily define your politics. Is all I was getting at there.
I mean, sure, but at the same time, if you look through his work as well, you'll see why I made that hypothesis. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just giving a hypothesis there, and that's what I'm thinking about it. Quite, you know.
I don't know anything about the guy.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about
When
the
you
person.
read through it more like Executioner I have, if you ever get the chance, you'll see what we're talking about.
I just steal man.
Yeah. How in the fuck? Okay, wrong move. Wrong move, Sonny! I better give it the fuck back. Go the fuck back here. Let's see how I can go over there. Okay, that other area I have no access to. It required the big key. Motherfucker! Oh, let's see. Where in the hell am I gonna go? It's been a while since I've been in this dungeon. Sorry, I'm a little sleepy too, Riley.
Okay.
Just
So, Conkin's
Fine.
class theory,
Oh.
Wally Cooper developed based on the work of Conkin's class theory is that there's three types of individuals. There's a good entrepreneur, an innovator, risk taker, producer, strength of the free market. Non-status capitalists, that is neutral, holders of capital, not necessarily ideologically aware. And status capitalists, which is bad, the primary beneficiaries of government controls, in the main evil in the political realm.
Okay.
and that right there reads like anything I don't like's a fap in the West.
Well, depending on
bit.
how he's using,
My main criticism.
yeah, depending on how he's using the term capitalist, it's not necessarily like in the same way that we would use the word capitalist. For example.
No, God, no. I agree, because the inventor of the term, the original. Hold on. Excuse me. Like I said, I'm tired like you are, but I'm still doing this because I need to get some episodes going. But what I was going to say was, yeah. The first dude who invented the modern term of capitalism, Louis Blanc, was a French politician. You ever notice this funny ass thing? Most leftism peddlers early are the pioneers. You know, going all the way back to being emboldened by the Enlightenment era, the French Revolution, and everywhere in between. They're precursors anyway.
continentals.
You ever notice that a lot of these fuckers are politicians? Anyway,
Yeah.
or bootlegs. Anyway, pardon that. Just noticed that pattern, felt like exposing it. What I was gonna say was, excuse me. Louis Blanc was first invented the term to mean the private means of production in 1850, and the Investopedia talks about this, and that's what Shane Killian made his video essentially reading off of. Now, I'd love to have seen the citation that used this, right? I would love to have seen it because basically what that means is in 1850 he did that, but the year after that he flip-flopped on it and peddled it to mean the success of some at the exclusion of others. When? In 1851, which I do have book records on as well, and using the citation of the book, citing it in the book. The conflation of those two definitions is what the leftists used. Everyone else does not use that. They use it to mean private ownership and trade. And then they use it and then using John Locke's work, Adam Smith's work, and the neoclassical and the Austrian school definitions, all the way up to the modern day of synthesis. You know, the modern day synthesis of neoclassical school. All of them use it to mean open, like free markets, etc., and private ownership done that way, and that's what it would mean to be capitalist or laissez-faire capitalist, and there's a longer way of saying the same thing in these terms. But leftists use that definition instead, that flip-flop definition hybrid. And I want to clarify that. I need to do that fucking video as soon as possible. And that's where that bullshit comes from. That's where that bullshit comes from. How the fuck am I gonna get over there? Sorry, but yeah, that's where it started. That's where we're at, and that's why it's such a hodgepodge of fucking. It's such a boonswoggle, if you will.
Yeah. So the big takeaway here, though, is that like, while he may be saying, he may be putting capitalists, there's this neutral capitalist and bad capitalist. While he may be putting the word capitalist in kind of one side of the moral spectrum, that may not necessarily be a condemnation of what like libertarians or ANCAPs would consider to be like a capitalist or an entrepreneur. It's like the good side of the spectrum he describes, that's an entrepreneur. And he clearly says this entrepreneur is beneficial. And I don't remember what you said his description of it was, but it sounded, at least to me, that like this would be a property owner, and I think that would definitively fall on the side of like libertarian and ANCAP definitions and or frameworks, I guess would be a way to put it.
Well, the ANCAP framework is just taking the same framework I explained and just taking it to consistent conclusion. That's the ANCAP framework. It's just working off of all the other people, the School of Salamanca, the Physiocrats, the classical, neoclassical synthesis of today, an Austrian, so on and so forth. It gets a little teeistic, but to go into all this, but it's that deep. It's not nuts deep, it's taint deep, if you will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, one of my, also, to relate to what Riley's saying, is his loaded language, as if he really did say something interesting. He said, on page 19, he said, the first counterattack came from anti-principles already planted by the corrupt intellectual castle. Defeatism, retreatism, minarchism, collaborationism, gradualism, monocentrism, and reformism, including accepting state of vice to improve statism. All of these anti-principles, deviations, heresies, or self-destructive contradictory tenets, etc., will be dealt later. Worst of all, partyarchy. The anti-concept of pursuing libertarian ends through statist means, especially political parties. A libertarian party was the second counterattack. So, he says at the end, as first as a ludicrous oxymoron, then as an invading army, which my contention around that is that he tries to conflate the Libertarian Party with defeatism and all those other things, when the strategy really is trying to use the state's game and try to end it through its own means.
Oh no!
Okay.
Shit. Sorry, that platform fucked up on me, and I had to go all the way back through all this crap and do that little bit again.
Which, when he says heresy, that's kind of a good indicator for, if you read the rest of the book, is that his language is very dogmatic. It is very interesting in that aspect, because he believes that his solution is the best solution, and that any of the minarchists or any of those things are anti-concepts and they're oxymoronic and they could possibly never work.
Now do you see where the said individual you won't name gets his shit from? So where that puritanism comes from, that bullshit there.
And it really encourages a huge amount of purity spiraling whenever you try to say, okay, there could be other ways to end the state, but then they go and talk about that as if it's the word of God, when no, Konkin could be wrong like anybody else. It's just, it's interesting.
Yeah.
It's
well, I think a criticism I've heard of agorists, similar to a criticism, is a similar criticism you get with like objectivists, where it's like, this is kind of a cult. So that may be where that's coming from. I didn't know where that was coming from. That could explain it.
It's
Uh,
pathetic,
yeah.
though.
in the book, New Libertarian Manifesto, he just says heresy and all this stuff, and he tries to dress it up in all fancy language, and I'm like, Jesus, this is like a religion right here, and it's not even a good one.
So how does he describe what the post-state society would be like? Does he have any sort of opinion on that? Does he make any statements on that?
From what I understand, Wes can talk about this a little bit, but I just got to flip to the chapter on that and just do a little quick thing on that. But
He had a view that agorism all the way will make the state dissolve in the same way Karl Marx peddled basically
Yeah.
accelerationism, basically.
Sure, but my question is, what does he say about what happens after the state dissolves? So, like, if agorism is the way to dissolve the state, what are his opinions? What does he think society will look like after the state dissolves? Because I have no idea.
He
I have
doesn't.
no idea what
He says he talks about when you hit when the agora, and that he said agora being, oh, I didn't hit that switch. I thought I fucking did. Anyway, that was kind of a for me. But he basically peddles the belief that confusing button. Sorry, folks.
Okay.
That essentially when you use agorism and whatnot, society will just become it'll become the absolute free market society, and he goes in all this diatribe essentially, from what I remember anyway.
How
Yeah.
does he define a free market society? Because, like, if he's saying it'll become like a free market society, that doesn't sound like left libertarianism. That's I mean, I guess it could be mutualism maybe, but that sounds like a right libertarian position. Although
Well,
I don't really understand mutualists, and I think they're just sort of like one side of the
it's
other.
they're retarded. Is what they are. I've openly argued with mutualists. I'm like, dude, the only way your framework can do is if you do first off, if you communalize a communal effort to lend and rent and so on and so forth. That's not so bad. And then they say, but it is because, and then they just word dance around. I'm like, so you don't want to be responsible for if you fuck up. That's all you're telling me. So your pet use, okay, commie light, got it. So you're gonna say it's evil, so you could sue the backpedal for responsibility. Got it. Go fuck off. I've done that before with one. And then I said, in another, I said, you could make this work entirely off of the, I guess you'd say, Rothbardian and Friedmanite frameworks. You just have to put your usufructs all over it to make it come about. But if it does, how are you going to justify occupancy and use if people want to make assets instead of, how will that would be considered, are you going to stop them from doing that?
That's the thing that, like, ANCOMs and mutualists and whatnot never really talk about, and I think they
they won't. It undermines them.
Like, because like the second you talk about the relationships between firms, or they like to use the word like communes or workers co-ops or whatever, but like the second you talk about the relationship between these firms, you're talking about a free market. Like that's what you're talking about. The only way you can have a non-free market system between the firms is if you have an overarching entity regulating that market, and at that point you have a state. And so if you have that entity over these firms, regulating interactions between them, then you're not anarchists anymore.
No, that's why that, and the fact that what he calls anarcho-syndicalism just sounds like social democracy with democratic councils, but we swear it's not a government. It's so not statist.
Okay.
Like fucking children. And Chomsky, I used to be a Chomskyite, a bit of a Chomskyite, and this is one of the two main areas I can't stand him at, because I was so, after I watched him show his hypocrisy and shit, I got disillusioned with the entirety of the left wing, because I was a Bernie bro partially because of him, you know. And then I saw he peddled part of the establishment quite blatantly. I'm like, fuck you. Fuck you, Beaky, I'm gone. Okay. And that's what I said to myself about him. And I was out of there.
So I found the what Conkin would envision afterwards. So according to him, I'm going to quote from 2 books. There's the Agorist primer he did, which I have on my computer, but there's also the one in book form. His idea of a free society is based on that of Robert Lefebvre, where all relations between people are voluntary exchanges, a free market, no one will injure another or trespass in any way. Of course, a lot more than statism would have to be eliminated to individual conscious for that society to exist. So that's what he kind of wants. Like, that's how he envisions it. But to quote from Samuel Edward Conkin's The Agorist Primer, quote, "The goal of agorism is the agora, the society of the open marketplace, as near to untainted by theft, assault, and fraud as can be humanly attained, is as close to a free society as can be achieved. And a free society is only one which each and every one of us can satisfy his or her subjective desires without crushing others by violence or coercion." So that's his idea, but when he goes into detail in his books about counter-economics and stuff like that, a lot of it is achieved through coercion. A lot of it is achieved through... A lot of it is achieved, like the car example I mentioned. It's very weird because he actually says, if you go to the Wikipedia page, Conkin characterized agorism as a form of left libertarianism, and generally that agorism is a strategic branch of left market anarchism.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I see what you mean by him going off the deep end.
He was not very fond of wage labor, I know that. He hated on it, which is a pretty lefty idea to peddle.
Yeah, it's pretty lefty.
And I think... Now, a lot of people say, well, but Molest Spoon was socialist too. But except he wasn't. He wanted everybody to be their own private property owner and worker and business owner for themselves, and to feed if they want to provide for their families, they can. And he had peddled the idea of a precursor to a covenant community, just like the Visigoths did. The Visigoth code that basically lasted those ancient Germans for fucking 450 fucking years. So pretty good track record to fucking hate on, you know what I'm saying? So it worked. It worked as a concept. It worked damn good. So
yeah,
I think it was the beginning of No Treason that he said that shit. That basically something like a precursor to it.
Him being a like that. Yeah, that's from what you just said. That's disappointing to hear about him. Like I said, I don't know anything about the guy, so I'm kind of this is me learning about him.
You can take us to a grain of salt. I could send you PDFs of both books because he hated intellectual property, which is pretty based of him. Because, like Kinsella said, it's not really a concept. So that's pretty based of Conkin on that part. And I do consider, if you really want to fight authoritarians and stuff, you can't do it all the way statistically like he advocated, but you can use counter-economic methods to, like they do over there, to survive.
So,
sure.
But it's also,
So,
and you can also use it to co-fund political local movements quietly. But beyond that, it's not the end-all be-all. It can't be. It's not able to. That's the point. And trying to do so, it's just going to get you fucking jailed. Or worse. By the state, and they're going to be sympathized by the fucking Stockholm Syndrome fucktards about it. Oh yeah, I said that. Boo-hoo. The fucking truth's a bitch.
There was...
I squat and shit on everybody.
There was a great article. There was a great article by, I believe it was Murray and Rothbard, and it was called "Konkin on Libertarian Strategy." And so, what he was going into was Konkin was against wage labor. He viewed it as non-market or anti-libertarian, and it would disappear in a free society. He claimed that when in the future, when we have agorism and stuff like that, that the voluntary sale of one's labor is somehow illegitimate or unlibertarian or whatever, but that wage labor will somehow disappear because people are going to engage in a fully free market where people can just be their own means of production.
Okay.
Still, that's pretty top cat cringe shit, to be honest. Even and now, like Senator Spooner fucking was not that fucking retarded about it. He just said, "Hey, I think everybody should be a capitalist for themselves," or he wouldn't say that, but that's what his rhetoric and what he advocated would be basically condensed down, saying everybody should be their own market capitalist for themselves and provide for their families and their communities and stuff, and provide for each other and whatnot, but be self-employed.
I'm just confused by the logistics of like what was described.
You mean the statistics?
Yeah, not everyone can own the means of production for everything. Like they can't. And sometimes
motherfucker.
Like, and what is it like? And there's some
So,
processes and
when
tasks,
this was
for
written,
instance.
Say what?
when this was written, it was written back in the 80s before 3D printers and all that stuff, but now agorists argue with 3D printing and stuff like that, we can have the means of production in our house or whatever. But as Rothbard was writing about it, he was talking about like self-employed contractors building automobiles and stuff like that, and he was basically saying that can't work because it's very uneconomical to have everything just be own self-contracting.
How the
Yeah.
fuck am I gonna do this? I need a damn. Let me go find a dungeon map.
That's more or less what I was thinking. Is that like you have there are certain activities that are
yes.
You can't be the you alone cannot be the means of production or can't okay, I'm phrasing this really poorly, but like having a collaborative effort helps, and having people assist you in the process helps, and having them sell their labor to you can be good, or hell, even just like working together, just like have the cooperation angle. Yeah. So I don't know. I'm just confused.
I don't get it either.
How I look at it is, how I see it is, it's just kind of confusing to me when people argue for everybody being the means of their own production, because it contradicts I Pencil. That's a good book. But where in Milton Friedman's quote, where nobody really knows how to make a pencil. Sure, you may read about all the processes involved, But there are so many things like the wood, everything is a collaborative effort to make this product. So you have a car, well, where do you get the steel for the car? Where do you get the drill bits to drill out the engine block and stuff like that? One person could never possibly have all that means of production and try to do that underground.
That's true. That's true. True as can be.
It's like me trying to build a rocket by myself. It would just be, I start up the damn thing. Whoa, there's a bunch of metal shards everywhere. Oh fuck, I didn't account for that one variable. Maybe I should have hired somebody to help me build this damn thing.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah, that's kind of what I mean as well. Is like I don't think that in every situation. I guess the example I would give for this is that like you talk to communists, for example, and they talk about having worker-owned companies. Like, yeah, sure, no, like I'm fine with there being worker-owned companies. I don't think it's a bad thing. But I'm not sure that every firm should be a worker-owned company. I'm not sure that model is the right model for every type of firm. Like, I think
Exactly.
there would be some firms that would benefit from not being worker-owned companies, and that's okay.
You could have a farm that's worker-owned. You could have a bunch of things, but there are just some businesses where more wage-oriented work is more advantageous.
Yeah, well, there's also, so we have situations, for example, where workers have been given the opportunity to basically be partners in a company, right? They receive
Shared profiting?
money. Huh? What?
Profit sharing?
Yeah. Like I said, I'm
Said
super
profit sharing.
Yeah. First off, apparently I'm lagging for you guys, but yeah, I'm really fucking tired, so everything's becoming really kind of sloppy. Just kind of bear with me. But and workers, when they're given the opportunity to participate in that, typically say they don't want to. Like in many cases, they say they don't want to. They would rather just receive a flat wage. And the reason they would rather receive the flat wage is that if the company doesn't make a profit, you still receive a wage. Whereas if you're only making money if the company's profiting, then you're only making money if the company's profiting.
And I'm sorry, but the emphasis of insurances and all that other kind of stuff and ESOPs and stuff can only go so far. Don't get me wrong, I think guilds and so on and so forth would be better than unions, unless you're talking mutual aid healthcare unions. I think those and the guild types like that are going to be top of the line. As an, that's a way to get my healthcare for all. It's not my free healthcare, but it's healthcare for all, and it's going to be better than the taxpayer system. It's, something I peddle that for a reason, because it can actually do what's actually promised to some extent, and it scales, and it actually will save you and your fucking, your families and all that. You don't have to do no fucking crazy tax shit. You sign up for one. You send a party your little check or your little amount of silver bar collection you get every month. Portion of that we turn into whatever bullshit spewing that they do, and that can be used to fund the infrastructure for that. And that everybody could pitch in should they choose to do so. It's entirely choice derived. There you go. It's a perfect fucking plan.
With that,
sorry.
I'm gonna let y'all keep going. I apologize. I'm really tired, and I gotta get up at like 3 in the morning. So,
dude, it's perfectly fine. It's perfectly fine. Don't worry about it. You hear me yawning too. You'll see my fucking tired ass eyes on the fucking straight of the podcast when it comes up. So
Well,
don't
y'all have fun.
It's not necessary to apologize. I completely empathize.
Nice. Well, thank you for teaching me a little bit about Kropotkin, whatever his name is. And y'all have a good night.
You're welcome. I'll send you the PDFs as well.
Alright. Good night, y'all.
Yep. Take care, man.
It was... Oh, shit. It was fun. Thank you. Bye.
I adore the hell out of him as a person. I'm not gonna lie. Shit. Sorry about that. What was I gonna say? Folks, I'm sorry, but you can disagree, but myself and some other individuals kind of fear what they call the BOOG is kind of started happening. It's already started. It's just going to take a while for it to actually escalate and actually pop off and actually become what everybody anticipates it to be if it been discussed. That's why I think that's why every time they talk about the BOOG boys and whatnot, they say that's a fascist thing, even though there's nothing to do with fascism. It's basically to empower people to minimize damage that's coming on a community to a community level. And that's what I think all you really can do. Besides do what Riley talked about when we talked to the VC in another server I'm not a part of anymore. Just to say, I just left it just because. Let's play it that way. And it's basically. For instance, like I said, you can use that Agora stuff to certain. I'm not telling you to do it because I'm not going to get myself in trouble advocating it, but you technically can. Use Agora methods to quietly co-fund local political activism and movements and such. Again, quietly. If you absolutely have to get the means to co-fund and increase the rate of security, that's one way you can do it. There's certain methods involved in that are ways you can do it. Yeah, I will link them. Anyway, I'm trying to fucking look at this map. But anyways, my notes. All the Groypers and America First autists and all those, I'm sorry, but they're fighting a battle that was lost decades ago. They lost the culture war.
Get into?
Huh? Say what, dude?
I think one failing a lot of libertarians get into is that they view that if the BOOG happened, that somehow they could fight by themselves, which is absolutely ludicrous. To view oneself as a one-man army is totally a non-concept, and it's a mistake of what war really is.
Huge one. Exactly, and that's a damning one. That's going to be a downfall maker in and of itself if you follow that type of head pattern. You don't want to do that. You actually want to be fucking strategic.
Yeah. These people have not read Sun Tzu. They haven't read actual books on military tactics, the history behind those things. They may know about Vietnam and stuff like that, but they don't actually read the actual things that actually perfected those tactics. They think, oh, we could just do Vietnam. It's like, no, that's not how that works. That's not how guerrilla warfare works. You actually have to read about it, dumbass.
Yeah. I was thinking of the, your nation first and other nations at the same time type of activism for liberty lovers and families and conservative types and patriots of their countries to actually be willing, if they're willing to do. I'm going to take some lessons from. I'm going to take some lessons from distributism, and I'm going to put this practice in advocacy of, say, for instance, you can you get, first off, before I go any further into all that, I'm going to link a couple things here for there's a timestamp that I link of the Free Man Beyond the Wall with Peter Quinones, as my boy Half Think calls it, Peter Quinoa. Basically, from the timestamp that I link to the 26-minute mark free of this particular podcast, with Matt Erickson. Basically, you take that into factoring, and then take the black pilling out of the rest of the podcast, and actually understand the constructive criticism of the libertarian movements and stuff, but also explain this particular time, from the timestamp I linked to 26 minutes in, this explains essentially what you need to do. We need to do it, and it goes in line with what I've been telling people after listening to the Don Plebs fucking mini series, little video series on the Fabians and the other video series. I'm going to link both of those from Don the Pleb to you as well to check out. And basically it goes into what was said about the Fabian socialist tactics and selling a different package for the masses, and going into how to sell the shit to the masses in rhetoric, in policies, and how to sell them, and in how to not be responsible for when they don't get carried out correctly by another party. You have to sell power and security packaging to the masses to the point they'll willingly take responsibility as long as they get more security long term and short term, as well as keep it for long term. But again, you can't sell this responsibility because we don't have the desire to be as responsible as we should. We haven't had that. It's flippant. Our desire for responsibility tends to be flippant for some weird reason. A lot of times, as collectively analyzing at the large scales, collective entities tend to not be so. Be even less desiring of responsibility. So we have to look at this in a how to sell power and security type lens. And we're also going to have to learn the theory of permeation and in the Fabian Society's various tactics. Basically, because they expose how moldable both the male and the female sexes really are. In spite of our staunch characteristics in the male and female nature and our psychological differences, that we do have differences, one of the common grounds is we're very moldable. We could peddle things that sound good and feel good, and also can seem to actually work as long as it's packaged right to, I don't want to say outright trick us, because it's not always the word either. It basically debunks the narrative that politics is downstream from culture, which, I'm sorry, but that's false. That's demonstrably false. To borrow from the distributists while throwing out the rest of that rhetorical, empty garbage bullshit, economic ignorance, I do think guilds, ESOP, operation type businesses, building societies, cooperative banking, mutual credit unions, and subsidiarity principles can be applied and could be used to supply localistic movements. Okay? I think that's very possible. And I think this type of infrastructure would prop people up big time in a way that, and that, I'm sorry to say, but I don't think that social warfare can. But you gotta have to factor in how to transmit, take back local domestic institutions, take them back. The ones that are savable, and the ones that are beyond FUBAR, like FUBAR beyond repair, so to speak, you'll have to figure out how to rebuild, or build alternative. Again, it's a bitch, but it's gonna have to be done. As much of a pain in the ass as it is. As much of a pain in the ass as it is. Oh shit. Okay. So I gotta. Whatever the fuck am I gonna do? What was this at again? 4. 2 keys. Number 4. Number 5. So where's number 4 at? Again? Oh. Okay, I know exactly where the fuck I need to go now. I'm gonna go back to the first floor. I know where to go now. I had to look over my map again while talking to you guys about this, and back and forth between the map and my notes to read this. And doing these military vehicles de-weaponized for humanitarian purposes is a great way to transport that infrastructure back and forth. And I also think to help also expand your agro-lenient using methods, utilizations, I also think it'd be good to learn Robert T. Kiyosaki's entirety of what the game is on his end. Why do I peddle Robert Kiyosaki like this? Well, I'll tell you. He tells you how to play the capitalist game. How to be capitalist in a corrupt corporate system. With corrupt fucking fake money, everything. He tells you, basically, when you're not factoring the petrol and energy grid monopoly reserves, those are the so-called reserves of the so-called reserve half, the two-part half of the petrodollar. The rest of it, the other part's just straight up fiat. So that means debt flow is actually what the money's supposed to be. So take that for what you will, but that seems to be the case. As cringy as this is, you have to accept it, but we can play the game the debt flow game to our advantage, and you got to understand how. Basically, anything you turn into something that could pay for your shit for you in the form of a working asset. Give me a second.
Just put her in here for a little while, then I'll put her in my room.
Sorry about that, everybody. But yeah. Anything to add to that? Executioner, anything you want to add to that, or what?
No, I think it's perfect.
I also think Techno's notions, suggestions for banking and how to use assets and turn stocks and assets back and forth, so on and so forth, to do paper money the same way. It's in league with a lot of what he learned from me and from myself, and learned from what I've shown him about different interpretations of how to back money in different ways, but that also concedes to Carl Menger and whatnot as well, which I'm very ecstatic about that. Ooh, believe me, I'm ecstatic as shit. But yes, now I will warn you guys, trying to apply the methods of how to play the game to make the cash flow come your way. Say, anything you turn to an asset like a yacht, a boat, a generator modified with a fuel reformer, you name it. If you can turn it to an asset that makes the cash flow, regardless of the economic instability of said paper cash flow, if it's able to work with you and adapt and change, and grow in value and how much it can pay you as the dollars of whatever system of dollars inflates away, you have yourself a pretty damn good, pretty damn good system, and that should be considered, it should be considered that with high regard. Just saying, you should at least consider that with high regard, because that's kind of the game, and you can use agorist tactics to expand that knowledge to some extent without being a full lefty about it. I'm sorry, but leftism's kind of a problem, and that's just why a lot of the libertarian right and other right-wingers look at the Enlightenment as a mistake. I disagree with that notion. I just think the precursors to the left in its entirety were emboldened by the Enlightenment. I mean, like, I talked to my I talked to my friend Macintosh. That's fine with me. He was talking about being anti-enlightenment to an extent in his views. I said, well, I'll just type that convo up. He said, I'm anti-enlightenment myself. I said, you have to remember, though, certain various precursors to the modern left were just as emboldened by the beginnings of the Enlightenment and the Enlightenment era's advancements themselves. The advances of the Enlightenment era, just as much as the ancient intellectual traditions that led to the precursors of modern conservatism and libertarianism, which of course Rothbardians and Hoppian Rothbardians are the last of the intellectual lineages, technically. If you consider, and this goes into the right-wing populist article about web page about Rothbard versus Ayn Rand and so on and so forth. It goes into that. I'll link that too. He said, I said the precursors of the modern left were carious or whatever. Were largely central bankers, politicians, and aristocrats, and their policies' original forms have been around since they were first tried shortly before the Bronze Age collapse. He said, leftist ideas were that old? I said, yeah. Some of the precursors are, yes. Welfare states, wealth redistribution through government, and taxation were at least as old as the final eras of the Greeks and the Romans of various, monarchies, empires, and so on and so forth. Central banking's been around since forever and collapsed currencies and societies shortly after left and right, so to speak. He said, I haven't read Socrates, and I didn't want to assume even if I agreed. What did Socrates say about democracy? And I said he hated it and seen it was prone to too many problems. That was his opinion of it. And the democracy needed to be educated, and you can't always be certain of this. He said, yeah. And I'm like, I'm a little skeptical. You talked about being skeptical anything Socrates quote unquote said because of writing. Plato was writing about him. Anyways, it goes into all that kind of shit. Only reason I called him Macintosh is because that's what he goes by on the streams he's been on. He's seen on like the back alley versus Hoppians quote unquote debate, and so on and so forth. Damn, I'm tired of getting lost all the time in this damn map. Okay, what am I gonna do? What am I gonna do? 6. Where does 6 connect to? Ah, so I can't get there yet. How did I get there before? Okay. Where's number 2 at? Damn. So yeah, as you can see, I'm quite clearly lost. Get down from there now! Get your ass down. Now stop that! Sorry. But you'll notice that pattern. Like you look at Proudhon, you look at I don't know about Kropotkin, but you look at Proudhon, you look at what's his name? You look at what was his name again? You look at Proudhon, you look at Karl Marx, you look at Louis Blanc, you look at the utopian socialist movements. They tended to be bootlegs, politicians, everything. All the left come from that. All of it, if you are just damn near. Or those who peddled policies that led to fucking great, that were catalysts of horrible shit happening, like the Bronze Age collapse, And I can't emphasize enough this fucking shit. And yes, again, I'm beyond lost. Ow. Oh man, that pisses me off so fucking much. How in the fuck am I gonna get over there? I hate this. I hate this dungeon. I used to feel this way about the 5th dungeon, but this one's worse. It's got the fucking magic meter. But yeah, so this is this uphill battle we gotta deal with. We gotta reverse engineer things that were used on us, on the masses, and exposed our moldability, and do all these different things, and promote it with a package that's able to incentivize people. That it's got to be power and security in their hands. So that's what it tends to be to incentivize everybody. Because that's what we can be lazy fucks at times. That's why. To put it bluntly, like a lot of us, like collectively speaking, not individually, like we can't because we can't do everything. That's what the division of labor basically embodies. You cannot do everything by yourself. Fuck. Where am I now? This is pissing me. This dungeon's pissing me off. I've never had this problem before. Never. What the hell? See, I'm so confused to this shit. It's retarded. It's literally mentally retarded. Of me, how fucking confused I got. This shit. Okay. How am I gonna get the fuck over there? Okay, that's not where I wanted to go. This is where I wanted to go. I couldn't, the way they made the map, I couldn't fucking tell. Anyway. Now we're getting somewhere. Once again. Now I've...
More libertarians should go off the grid.
Huh?
I said more libertarians should go off the grid.
Okay, that's another good, helpful direction. You want to go further into how? Like different reasons and such?
There's a lot of cheap land in either the South or Midwest, and even in northern parts of New England, you can get very cheap land. Well, if you want to go off the grid, the best bet you can do is to get a trailer or a mobile home or even a tiny house or a cabin and put it on a piece of cheap land, save up, do that sort of thing, and you can have a functioning homestead out in the middle of basically nowhere, but you can be self-sufficient by learning bushcraft and agriculture and all that stuff, learning how to do your own solar and electricity and stuff, and you can become very self-sufficient. And I think that's a thing libertarians should do, is getting less involved in the state of society and more on their own for self-sufficiency.
I concur with that. I agree with that.
I think another thing libertarians really need to get into is hunting and actually experiencing the outdoors. That's an important part for survival, and I think that more libertarians should get familiar with prepping.
I agree to that. Strongly, I agree to that.
A lot of these libertarians don't have survival skills at all. They talk a big game, but they really, if you put them out in the wilderness or a survival situation, not good.
Dude, don't even get me started. The ones that talk a lot of shit, like some minarchists, as they call themselves, they tend to like tout the big game. Like I'm not gonna say who, but let's just say I found out about some guys that had to be gone, had to be physically removed, so to speak. I'm not sorry for it. Sorry for you to hear, but I'm saying that facetiously. Okay, let's see where the fuck I gotta go now. Where's the big key? H. Where's H at? And of course.
Another thing I think is that libertarians really really need to educate themselves on self-defense laws and actually how to defend themselves in a legal and successful way.
Yeah, I saw that video. Speaking of self-defense stuff, I saw that video by Fenrir and whatnot. I'm like, yeah, that's. Oh, that's what I need to fucking do. That explains some shit. Let me go do that.
Yeah, it's just libertarians are all about guns, and that's great. That's great and all, but learning how to effectively use your guns and actually having the know-how behind things is an important thing that a lot of people ignore when they buy their first gun.
I don't think, on one hand, I think the most should have happened to Fenrir was, oh, we'll just sentence you to fucking gun training and that's it. It's done. It's a done deal. Leave it alone. That's all that should have ever happened. That's what I'm going to say, and I'm going to stick by that. I mean, I'm not going to shit.
The thing is, some states have done that. Some states have done that. My state, for example, sentenced a woman who had a gun or whatever. She was in fear for her life or whatever. Judge was lenient and said, hey, we're not going to charge you with a felony, but we are going to say you need to take this class so you know what is a threat and what isn't a threat.
Would you quieten down, Tiger Lily? You're staying in here. I'm not dealing with that. I'm not dealing with you being knocked up again, not so soon. And I know you can't fight them off forever. You've tried that. It didn't work.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I hope he gets his rights restored. I hope he gets the charges dropped. It's just... It's a shit situation that just could have been avoided, and it really sucks. We've all been there in situations where it's just one shit sandwich and you gotta take a bite.
Ah! I see what it is. I know that I gotta go where I gotta go now. This is some of the most autistic shit I've had to do in a dungeon. But, whatever. Cancel Mario. I'll have to get that later. I have to get the big key. Would you hush? Please? Goofy girl? Go ahead, lay on my lap. Lay here, lay down, lay on my lap. Hush up.
Speaking of guns, there's one thing people make a mistake about is buying low-quality guns of popular platforms because they think it's a good deal. Some AK-47s out there are made by some manufacturers and they have cast metal trunnions, and the problem with those is that's where the splody happens. And if it's cast metal is known for being brittle and breaking. So a lot of people, sometimes they'll buy these things, run a lot of rounds for them, and oh shit.
Don't start that! Jesus H. Christ.
So I think it's a thing a lot of people need to do is to do their homework before they buy a gun. Buy, the manufacturer, learn who the manufacturer is, what materials the gun is made out of, etc.
I have to agree with you. I have to agree. If I don't get it all done this episode, I will, probably won't. We will probably have to go back and get some potions, and I'm going to read the map a bit by bit, and then that's probably, you know what I'm going to do? Fuck it, that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to go, rewind, go back to the start of the dungeon, I'm going to reread the whole thing, and I'm going to start by going back to get some more blue potions. Another few bottles of blue potion. And that's what I'm going to do. And then we'll, in the next episode, episode 9, I believe it is, we'll tackle this fucking dungeon. Hey, what do you know? For instead of the 5th dungeon being my problem, it's the damn 6th one. That never happened to me the first time. The last 5 times I played this game over the years. This is incredible. Well, it's probably it does offer more challenge for me to talk and read from my notes of things I had to say and wanted to say, and then do this at the same time. So it probably does add another series of layers of a fucking challenge for me, it's cool. But yeah.
I gotta do more gun-related content on my channel. I gotta get into that.
Yeah, I'll plug that shit here, dude. Like, because I got, dude, it's crazy. I got like over 200 subscribers now, which is nice. Finally, I'm getting a little more notice. Go around talking to people and shit.
That's cool.
So yeah, thanks. I didn't do no 200 sub special, but you know, cause I got other shit to do. You know, IRL and on here. I still ain't finished writing my my other fucking stuff where I'm responding to Nick's red board. I'm trying to figure out how to condense a lot of this fucking crazy shit down because Fuentes has so much bullshit rhetoric, commie rhetoric and Fabian rhetoric in disguise. It's nuts. But that's kind of a symptom.
Yeah.
But that's just a symptom. He's one of the symptoms of the bigger problems. No shit. But still, it's infuriating.
I was in the hardware store a couple days ago, and they sell guns. And there was this one lever action, nice one. But I looked at it. It said $350, and I'm like, oh, okay, that looks pretty good. But I'm like, I looked at it, and I'm like, the bluing on this is fucking worn out. I'm not gonna buy this.
Yeah.
That's the thing. You gotta, if you're gonna buy a gun, you gotta look at the condition it's in, because if it's not blued, oh boy, that's a bad mess.
Those who peddle the, we need to lock libertarians in jail. Those are the type of mooching fucks. If they got power, they'll mooch off of the success of others and then shoot those said others who produce the success in the backs of the heads. For no reason than just because they're sociopathic cunts. I should have been hung in a public fucking gallows before they had the chance. And that's all I gotta say about that, and that applies to every single motherfucker that peddles that for the same goddamn reason. Every single motherfucker. It's just a target as far as I'm concerned. Yep. I'm not above it. I'll say it. I'm low enough to say it. And another thing too. What do the... This is another thing. This is why I tend to be more simpatico with Bill Kaufman and Paul Gottfried more so than others who call themselves paleocons, but tend to act screechy and shit. You know what I mean? Like, and then the works of Edmund Burke and the Paleolibs as well. What is it, you Asperger shit?
There are definitely people that if they got power, they would just absolutely abuse it. I can agree with you partly on that.
Yeah. He doesn't have the opinion of the latter part like I do. He's not, or if he does, he wouldn't gonna say it because he's not as venomous as I am. He's far more diplomatic still than I am. I've burnt myself with being diplomatic at this point for a lot of motherfuckers, arguing them and shit. Because it got me nowhere, and it's not going to get me anywhere, and I'm okay. I just have to accept it. Certain ones and certain motherfuckers still do good to be diplomatic, but the average citizen, I think, still have a chance. But I will agree with the Groypers on some things, though. Quite a few things, actually. But I'll have to do that in my own video, which I've already been working on. And look what I got, folks. Libertarianism, getting it right. Going through this a bit, and this is an incredible book. Guys, I'll give you some videos. Let me give you some shout outs of some books I got for Soda Craft. Making Your Own Soda by Anton Nacito, I guess, founder of P&H Soda Company. I think that's how they say their name. Really good book. Get these unused for fucking nothing, hardly. It's incredible. Stephen Cresswell's Homemade Root Beer and Soda Pop book. Homemade Soda by Andrew Schloss. 200 recipes for making and using fruit sodas, fizzy juices, sparkling waters, root beers, and cola brews, herbal and healing waters. Oh, excuse me. Sparkling teas and coffees, shrubs and switchels, cream sodas and floats, and other carbonated concoctions. Naturally, if you all want to go all the way. There's another good one. It's called Making Soda at Home, Mastering the Craft of Carbonation. Many healthy recipes you can make with or without a soda machine. There you go. I'm trying to recreate, come as close to A&W with just the herbs alone. So I've been doing that experiment quite a bit, so it's pretty kick-ass. And yeah, something to get into if you want to support your community and shift away from those toxic fucking chemical bombardments we call soda pop today. And this book also by the same publishers. They have a Making Artisan Gelato. I'm trying to see who the author was. 45 recipes, techniques, crafting, flavor infused gelato, and sorbet at home. Torrance Kopfer, or whatever. I hope I read that correctly, but that's really, really tiny letters. I'm trying to, I think I said that right. If not, I will correct the actual deal, the actual name properly in the. It'll be in the Amazon link. I'm getting sleepy myself, but yeah, I'm working on recreating A&W from scratch with herbs. But I'm gonna have my own recipe, and I'm gonna have a secret recipe for obvious reasons. Look at your local legal landscape on how to make batches of local beverages and food products under the table, and you need to have an under the table thing, but you can still have a license that you're clean and whatnot, have yourself in the clear. And I will link you the sweeteners I use to make homemade soda pop with. Some of them are just added in small amounts to provide a different flavor and to add more sugar for the yeasts to ferment, as well as some different properties they leave behind once they're fully fermented and the sugars are fully fermented out and contribute carbonation. I got multiple root beer recipes on hand. I also have I'm just gonna have to try doing the candy thermometer deal to try to recreate my my orange cream soda recipe. Diet orange cream soda recipe. If you want to know further about nutritional and physiological and information and stuff, check out Harry Serpanos and Bart K. And if you want to look up the channel of a lady I've done voice acting for, a beautiful and hilarious woman by the name of Sky, please check Miss Sky's channel out. It's known as You Did It Wrong. Lastly, but definitely never will be the least, ever by a long shot, my friend here is his channel, the Executioner channel. Please check it out. By the way, Executioner, I would love to see. It'd be good if you made a BitShit, a BitTube, and an Odyssey. I have 2 of those other 3 already, and all my shit goes to them when I upload as archive. That's a nice little feature. If they try to nay censor you on the YT, you'll still be archived over there.
Yeah, I have a BitChute, just same name, different avatar profile picture. Should be the same, but yeah. I'm
excellent.
On BitChute and YouTube.
I got those on Odyssey, and every time you upload, it'll go straight to them.
Sounds good, my man.
It's just a little advice, because like I said, in case they try to nay your ass, you can still be up over there, and you can have people go to those accounts to subscribe to them as well. And it also increases your viewing capabilities as well. And I really appreciate you for coming on, dude.
No problem, anytime.
And to everyone else, this is Western Public from the Derpy Redneck channel, signing out.